Okay, today so we're going to read chapter 2 from Bud Not Buddy. Who can tell me what happened in chapter 1? Cheyenne. They got pulled. Why were they getting pulled out of the breakfast line? Why?
Because the lady told them they actually have families now.
Right.
And Jeremy was going to a house full of all girls. He had three.
It was Jerry, I think, was his name.
Jeremy.
I thought it was Jerry.
Jerry was going to a house full of girls, and Bud was going to a house with a little brother that was younger than him.
Right. Okay. All right. And so, did anything happen did we get to a point where anything happened with Bud at the Amoses? The Amoses is where Bud's is going, correct? Bud so far just packed his suitcase. Did he have anything interesting in the suitcase? Clothes. He had a flyer. What did that flyer say?
It was the one that his mom had, wasn't it?
Right, the one that his mom had. And he says his mom acted really strange about this flyer, and his mom had passed away when he was how old? Do you remember? 7. He also didn't he talk about a strange thing happening to you when you were 6?
Yeah. It was losing your first tooth.
How many?
Hurting.
There you go. That's a connection, Ariana. A connection is when you lose a tooth. Okay. How many of you have lost a tooth? Okay. Everybody. So that's a text to self connection that you can be making about how you felt the first time you lost your tooth. I mean, I have 5th graders that come up and say, "Oh, I lost my tooth. My tooth came out." And I'm like, "Okay, go to some water." Yeah, you've been losing teeth now since you were 5 or 6. You'll be okay. But but that's a connection that most of us can relate to. There's something on my glasses that's all slimy. Probably. No. Hand sanitizer. Okay. Chapter 2. There comes a time when you're losing a fight and that just doesn't make any sense to keep on fighting. It's not that you're being a quitter. It's just that you've got the sense to know when enough is enough. I was having this thought because Todd Amos was hitting me so hard and fast that I knew that the blood squirting out of my nose was only the beginning of a whole long list of bad things that were about to happen to me. All right, so we're talking about the blood squirting out of his nose. Is there anything that we talked about blood squirting lately you can relate to?
Yes.
What?
You said that. Your
my son-in-law's hand getting cut. Right. Todd's next punch crashed me into the side of my ear, and I fell on the floor and pulled my knees up to my chest and crossed my arms in front of me, my head like a turtle in a shell. I started scooching toward the bed, hoping I could get under it. Todd started kicking me, but his slippers couldn't hurt me near as much as his fist had. The bedroom door opened and his mother, Mrs. Amos, came in. It seemed like she'd have a hard time figuring out what was going on because Todd's right leg got tired from kicking me and switched over to his left leg. You looking for?
You just put the original, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. But...
Yep. Okay. That's okay. In his left one, while she watched. Finally, Mrs. Amos said kind of soft, "Toddy?" Todd looked up, fell on his knees, and put his hands on his throat. He started huffing and puffing with his eyes bucking out of his head and his chest going up and down so hard that it looked like someone... that some kind of a big animal was inside him trying to bust out. This was my chance to get under the bed and pull the covers down so they couldn't see me. Mrs. Amos ran over to her son and fell on her knees. She put her arms around his shoulders. Toddy, Toddy boy, are you all right? She looked over when I was peeking from under the bed. You little cur. What have you done to my Toddy? Todd coughed out. Oh, Mother. He took in two jumbo breaths. I was only trying to help. He was sounding like a horse that had been run too hard in the winter. And look what it's gotten me. Todd promised, pointed at his jaw, and Mrs. Amos and me could both see the perfect print in the shape of my hand welted up on Todd's blubbery cheek. With one quick snatch, she had me from under the bed and out on the floor, laying down next to Todd. How dare you? This is how you chose to repay me? Not only have you struck him, you have provoked his asthma. So she's blaming Bud for everything, isn't she?
Well, yeah, but he didn't actually make him bleed. He wasn't the one that caused it.
No.
But I don't think he's trying to blame it on him. I think he's just saying that he's running. I think he's just running out of breath and he's like kind of
Who, Todd?
dizzy, probably.
I think Todd wants him to think that Bud was the one doing it, the mom. I'm not sure. Todd said, I just tried to wake him and make sure he'd gone to the lavatory. What's a lavatory?
It's like it's where I guess it's like something where scientists works.
That's a laboratory. Lavatory with the V. A lavatory is what? It's a bathroom. So if you don't know that, it could be a word that you could write down. Lavatory. Lavor. Lavorat. Lavatory. That means a bathroom. I was just trying to help. He aimed his finger dead at me and said, and look at him, Mother. This one's got bedwetter written all over him. I'm not bragging when I say that I'm one of the best liars in the world, but I gotta tell you, Todd was pretty doggone good. It seemed to me he knew some of the same things I know. The same things I think all the time and try to remember, so I don't make the same mistake more than 7 or 8 times. Shucks, I've got so many of them memorized that I'd have to give them numbers. And this seemed like Todd knew number 3 of Bud Caldwell's rules and things for having a funner life and making a liar out of yourself. Rules and things number 3. If you got to tell a lie, make sure it's simple and easy to remember. Why should a lie be simple and easy to remember?
So because if it's not, they're just going to know you're lying when you say
Because
it.
you're going to probably end up saying something you shouldn't. Should you lie in the first place to your parents?
No.
Todd has done that. But this wasn't really a good test because Mrs. Amos had her ears set to believe anything Todd said. In her eyes, Todd's mouth was a prayer book. But I can't blame Todd for lying like that. Having someone who likes you so much that they think everything you do is the truth, now has got to be a liar's paradise. That might feel so good it could make you want to quit lying, but maybe not. Because Todd hadn't quit lying since the second I came to his house. What had really happened was that I woke up from a good sleep because it felt like a steam locomotive had jumped the track and chugged the way straight into my nose. When I jerked up in the bed and opened my eyes, Todd was standing next to me with a yellow pencil in his hand. He was looking at it, and it was like a thermometer, and said, wow, you got all the way up to R. So it's one of those Ticonderoga pencils, how you say it, and so it's about that much that he stuck the pencil into his nose. About that much. You have one, Addie? Bring it here.
Jerry.
So
like that, and
so it's that long word, and it's all the way to the R. So that much of the pencil, this much of the pencil went into his nose. That is a lot of pencil to be jammed up your nose. I'm just gonna say I've had the COVID test done quite a few times, and it's about like that.
They put the whole pencil in his nose.
Up to the R. The one I just showed you how far. Yes. He turned his pencil toward me, crunched up against the headboard. I saw Ticonderoga printed on the yellow wood. The whole room smelled like the rubber from the eraser. And I was winking and blinking my left eye because it felt like something had poked the back of my eyeballs. Todd laughed. I've never gotten it in as deep as that, and as the end on any of you other little street urchins. I just might enjoy your stay here. Who knows what other things you could be number one in, Buddy? I'd already told him that my name was Bud, not Buddy. I don't care that Todd Amos's was 12 years old. I didn't care that he was twice as big as me. And I didn't care that his mother was being paid to take care of me. I wasn't about to let anybody call me Buddy and stick a pencil up my nose all the way to the R. I swung as hard as I could at Todd's big balloon head. Somewhere between the time I threw my punch and the time it landed, my fist came open, and when my hand landed, it made a pop like a 22 rifle going off. Todd fell on the floor like he'd been cold cocked. He sputtered and muttered and felt the spot where I slapped him. Then a big smile came on his face. He stood up, started walking real slow towards where I was on the bed. He untied his robe and dropped it on the floor like he was getting ready to do some hard work. I jumped to the floor and got my fist up. Todd might have been a lot bigger than me, but he better believe this wasn't going to be a bird's nest sitting on the ground for him. He could kiss my wrist if he thought I was going to let him whip me out without a good fight. Being this brave was kind of stupid. Even though Todd was a puffy, rich old mama's boy who wore a robe with slippers, he could hit like a mule, and it wasn't too long before I decided enough is enough. But the story that Mrs. Amos was hearing from her lying son was only that Todd had tried to wake me up so I could go to the bathroom. Mrs. Amos hated bedwetters more than anything in the world, and my bed had a sticky, hot, smelly rubber baby sheet on it. She had said it wasn't anything personal, and after I proved myself for 2 or 3 months, I could get a proper cloth sheet. But until then, she had to protect her mattress. She pulled Todd to his feet and led him to the door. She looked over at me. You are a beastly little brute, and I will not tolerate even one night with you under my roof. Who knows what you would do, what you're capable of while we slept. The door shut behind her. Then I heard a key jiggle in the lock. I plugged the right side of my nose and tried real hard to blow the smell of rubber out of the left side. The key jiggled in the lock again. This time, when she opened the door, Mr. Amos was standing with Mr. Amos was standing with Mrs. Amos. He was carrying my suitcase. Uh-oh. They'd looked inside. I couldn't tell. I could tell because the twine that held it together was tied in a kind of knot that I didn't know that this was wrong. They promised they'd keep it safe and not look in it. They laughed at me when I made them promise, but they did promise. Boy, Mr. Amos, Mrs. Amos said, I am not the least bit surprised at your show of ingratitude. Lord knows I have been stung by my own people before, but it takes a good look at me because I am one person who is totally fed up with you and your ilk. I do not have time to put up with the foolishness of those members of our race who do not want to be uplifted. In the morning, I'll be getting in touch with the home and much as a bad penny, you shall be returning to them. I am a woman of my word, though, and you shall not spend one night in this house. She looked at her husband. Mr. Amos will show you to the shed tonight, and you can come back in tomorrow for breakfast before you go. I do hope your conscience plagues you, because you may have ruined things for many others. I do not know if I shall ever be able to help another child in need. I do know if I shall not allow vermin to attack my poor baby in his own house. She talked like this, and she wasn't even a preacher or a teacher. Shucks, she talked strange like this, and she wasn't even a librarian. I only halfway listened to what Mrs. Amos was saying. I was too busy keeping my eye on my suitcase, wondering if they'd stolen anything from it, and thinking about getting even. When I thought she was done talking, I reached my hand out for my suitcase, but she told Mr. Amos, "Oh, but no. No, no, no. We shall hold on to his beloved valuables. Oh, no. We're going to hold them." She laughed. "This shall be our assurance that nothing comes up missing from the house, and that this little animal is still here in the morning. He is far too attached to those treasures to go anywhere without them." Mrs. Amos was one of these grown-ups who could always think of one more thing to say. And that is not all. "Before you retire to the shed, you shall go to Todd and apologize, or I shall be forced to give you the strapping of your life." What's the strapping?
Like a belt.
Like getting a
See,
spanking
I feel
or a
like
belt.
Spanking from a belt.
So if you don't know the word strapping, that could be another word you could write as unknown words. I've been so worried about my suitcase that I didn't even notice the thick black razor strap hanging out of Mrs. Amos's hand. She didn't have to worry. I apologized. One beating from these Amoses was enough for me. She grabbed my arm. Mr. Amos walked out of the room with my suitcase, and Mrs. Amos pulled me down to the hall to Todd's room. We stood outside the door listening to Todd groan. When Mr. Amos came back, my suitcase was gone. He'd been so quick that I knew my bag couldn't be too far away. She tapped on Todd's door and said, "Toddy, may we come in?" Todd's groans got a lot louder. Finally, he said, "Yes, Mother." "Come in." We opened the door, and as soon as he saw me, Todd got a real terrified look on his face. He scooched up to the headboard and wrapped his arms around his head. Mrs. Amos gave him a shake and said, "Well." I put my head down and started shooting apologies out like John Dillinger shoots out bullets. I aimed at Todd first. "I know it was wrong of me to hit you. I know you were only trying to help, and I'm very sorry for what I did." I looked at Mr. Amos. "And, sir, I'm sorry that I got you out of your sleep." He rolled his eyes, and that was enough for him. Mrs. Amos was going to be the hardest because just like her ears were set to believe everything that came out of Todd's lips, they were set not to believe anything I said. And if I didn't lie good enough, she was going to use that strap on me. These Amoses might look like a bunch of cream puffs, but if she was anything like Todd, I bet she could pack a real wallop. And Mrs. Amos, I'm so grateful for all of your help. I'm really, really sorry. I looked up and could see she needed more. If you give me another chance, I promise I'll do a whole lot better. Please don't call the home. Please don't send me back. Shucks. Going back to the home was just what I wanted to do. But I was being just like Brer Rabbit in one of those books Mama used to read to me at night when he yelled out, "Please, Brer Fox, don't throw me into the pricker patch. Please, please." That was another one of Bud Caldwell's rules and things to have a funner life and make a better liar out of yourself. Rules and things number 118. You have to give adults something that they think they can use to hurt you by taking it away. That way, they might not take something away that you really do want. Unless they're crazy or real stupid, they won't take everything because if they did, they wouldn't have anything to hold over your head to hurt you with later. I stopped talking and gave Mr. Amos a chance to jump in. She held her hand up to my face and said, "Enough, enough, Mr. Amos. Give him the blanket pillow off the bed that he was in and put him in the shed." Todd said, "Yeah, buddy. Keep a sharp eye out for that vampire bat in the shed. It looks like it was like a miracle." Todd's asthma bats in the shed. It was like a miracle. Todd's asthma was gone and he turned into a real chatterbox. "Oh, and watch out for those spiders and centipedes, buddy. The last kid who got out there got stung so bad he swelled up as big as a whale when we got him out in the morning." I guess I didn't look scared enough because Todd kept going. "The kid before him hasn't been found to this day. All that's left is that big puddle of his blood in the floor. Isn't that right, Mama?" Mrs. Amos said, "Now, Toddy, hush up. You'll just wear yourself out more." I noticed, though, that she never denied the things Todd said about the vampires and the centipedes and the spiders and the puddles of blood. As I followed, Ariana, sit up, baby. As I followed Mr. Amos, I kept a sharp eye out for my suitcase. When we got to the kitchen, the first thing I saw was that there was a double-barreled shotgun leaning against the side of the icebox. I didn't have time to wonder why they'd be so scared that they keep a big gun like that out in the open, because I spotted my suitcase slid way under the kitchen table. I didn't let Mr. Amos know that I'd seen it, but it did make me a lot calmer. We went out to the back of the shed and he put a key in a padlock. A chain rattled. The lock came off and the door creaked open. Even though it was nighttime, there was a whole different, scarier kind of dark in the shed. A colder dark with more grays and more shadows. An old smell leaked out, and it seemed like it was the perfect smell that all this gray would have. Mr. Amos nudged me, and I took a baby step into the shed. He could kiss my wrist if he thought I was going to beg him and say things like, "I'll do anything you folks ask if you don't lock me up here all alone." I squeezed my tongue between my teeth to hold it still, because I know a lot of times your brain might want to be one brave, but your mouth might let some real chicken sounding stuff fall out. I stood a little bit inside and looked around. Right in under the window was a pile of stacked wood. There was a bunch of dusty spider webs in front of the little window, and someone had pasted old yellow newspaper over the glass so the kids who had got locked in here couldn't peek out. Mr. Amos handed me the blanket and pillow and gave me another nudge. I took 2 more baby steps then. I looked down at the floor. If I was like a normal kid, I would have busted out crying. But I just stood there breathing hard. Breathing hard. It was a good thing I bit my tongue because I came real close to saying those stupid begging words to Mr. Amos right in the middle of the floor. There was a big black stain in the dirt. They really were going to make me sleep in the shed with a patch of blood from that kid who had disappeared out of here a couple of weeks ago. The floor went completely black. Then Mr. Amos pulled the door shut. I couldn't see it now, but I memorized the exact shape the thing was in. The padlock snapped shut with the loudest click I'd ever heard. So, what do you think that Mr. Amos' point of view is on all of this? Because he hasn't said very much. So, just from the fact that he hasn't said very much, what do we think that his point of view is, Lily?
Like, he is just doing, like, whatever the mother tells him.
So he's just doing what the mother says. Is he really think, What's his point of view though? What does he think
His
about?
his point of view is the mother's point of view because
Right. He's just
he
doing.
hasn't said anything, so that probably means that he doesn't care what she doesn't care what he thinks. The mother's always right, so he has to do what she says.
So his point of view is just whatever she's saying, that she's in complete control, right? And do you think Todd knows that he can get away with doing everything he wants to do?
Yep.
Yes, I think he does too.
He shouldn't, but yes, he does.
Right, he shouldn't.